I bought this cheap, worn-out hub. The bearing was grinding and ready for the scrap, but I had a plan. See how I brought this back to life at home. Locking the knuckle in the vise, I start by using this hub removal kit. Washers and lug nuts secure a plate over 2 studs, and a ratchet tightens them down. A threaded bar winds into a large nut and pushes against the housing. From experience, only using one gives a wonky extract, which creates uncontrolled binding and excessive force, so I use another on the opposite end. Wind the threaded rod to push against the nearest solid section. With both sides secured, 2 ratchets begin to wind it out simultaneously. You can now see the hub removing evenly, and the result is very satisfying. Out clean in seconds with no hammering or hydraulic press required. Now it's time to move on to restoring the hub itself. The inner race needs removing. First we remove the grease seal, as we're dealing with an open bearing. Use a Dremel with a cutting disc to avoid damaging the hub itself. Once you've cut enough and feel you're getting closer to the edges, switch to a worn, smaller disc so you can target the centre section. Try and cut as deep as you can. When you think you've gone deep enough, try and crack it with a hammer. If it doesn't move, cut a little more. This one cracked on its own, and now I can easily hammer it off. The objective here is to avoid marking the ball. An abrasive cleans it up well. I'm using protective pads in the vise to hold it securely as I clean the face, making sure I don't mark it. A 10cm wire brush on a drill is what I use, working it between the studs without too much pressure. With the knuckle back in the vise, I remove the ABS ring and the grease seal. Because the retaining spring is removed from this side, so is the bearing. I'm going to swap this inner race to the other side and use it to pull the bearing out. I select a press piece from the kit to do just that, and with it inserted, I now take a washer and place it over the threaded bar. Plenty of grease, and it gets inserted from this side. Now we need a cup and backing plate for the bearing to be pulled into. These are now in position, and finally another washer and nut wound on, adjusted, and it's ready to be pulled out. I place a ratchet on this side so it can't move. I went straight for a breaker bar on the other side because, from experience, they don't release easily. Once you hear the knock, it means the bearing has released, and it should get easier. Once it does, I switch to a normal ratchet and wound the bearing all the way out, and there we have it. This is getting a fresh disc shield, so those bolts need removing. All that rust is going. I start with an angle grinder brush for the larger sections. Once I've exhausted those areas, I switch to the 10cm drill brush and go again. These are really effective and cheap brushes. Finally, a smaller brush for all those hard to reach areas. An abrasive pad cleans the bore. Then I stuff plenty of paper towel inside to help the tape stick to it. We want that area blocked off on both sides because now we're going to paint it. I start with a few coats of rust converter. Once set, I remove the shine with an abrasive pad so that the coat of red oxide primer sticks firmly to it. Finally, I apply nice coats of satin black. I'm going to gut the old bearing and use it to press the new one in because it makes a perfect tool. You must always press on the outer race, never the inner. I select a backing plate to push against this, and now we have one side sorted to drive the bearing in. A different press piece is used to lean against the front side with the threaded bar and washer inserted through it. The bearing and pieces are now set up on the opposite side, followed by the finishing washer and nut, wound on and adjusted, ready to be pulled in. Securing the one side again, I begin winding the bearing in, only to find after a few turns it gets too tight. I stop and remove the kit. It's binding here, and it needs to be pushed back. So I use a small punch to tap the outer race where it's catching, pushing it back into position. Now it's straight again. For my second attempt, you can see my ratchet isn't extended. I'm not using much force, and the pressure feels consistent. That's a green light to continue winding, and this time the bearing aligns itself correctly, allowing me to wind it all the way in. I'm happy this bearing is safely seated because the retaining clip snaps firmly into place. To install the grease seal, find a press piece which only contacts the outer section, angle the seal into position with the plate and hammer the highest part. This begins to seat it, then hammer around it, remove and check. It should be even and almost in place. Continue hammering around until you can hear a solid noise. That's now flush with the lip. Same technique with the ABS ring. Angle the ring a little and hammer the highest point. Not quite. Boom! Now hammer around until you can hear that solid sound. Now we're fully seated. Now the front seal. Angle the seal and hit the highest points. Check that it's even all around. Then hammer the centre press piece. Check again, then hammer it again until you can hear that solid noise. Flush with the lip and sorted. This knuckle is having a rare and discontinued brake shield fitted. With it bolted down, it's time to install the hub. Using the old bearing for demonstration, the hub goes in one side with the press piece matching the size of the inner race on the other. As it gets pushed in, you can see the bearings are fully protected and untouched. You always press against both inner races when installing the hub. We select a press piece for the hub face and insert the threaded rod. Then through the bearing, resting on the inner race. The press piece didn't fit because the seal was fitted first. These inner races push nicely against each other, so I place one in and it clears the seal. Now the press piece on top, followed by the washer and nut, wound on and adjusted, we're ready to wind. One ratchet to secure so we can focus on just one side. You just need to keep winding until it comes to a firm stop. And there it is. Now spin it, smooth and tight, which is expected from an open bearing. These kits are a DIYer's best friend and a must-have in your garage. Click the link in the description and order yours today.